How's it going, everyone? Kellen Reck here, and today I want to go over a quick tip in Adobe Premiere Pro, and we're going to talk about nesting clips. Now, why would you want to nest a clip? Well, this is going to allow you to warp, stabilize, and use various effects on clips or group them together when the sequence settings aren't the same as the resolution of your clip, or if you're using an adjustment in speed duration for your clip. So the first clip I'm going to use, let's just look at my sequence settings. I've got 1920 by 1080 at 23.976 frames per second for my sequence, so standard HD. Now, the first clip that I'm going to drag in is a 4K clip. So I'm going to keep existing settings, so my sequence settings will remain the same. However, my clip is 4K, so it's way bigger than the sequence. And you can also see that it's a little wobbly, and it's also 60 frames. So we're going to do a couple things here. First, this clip is way too wobbly, and we're just going to take the middle portion of it. So I've got this very wobbly 4K clip. Now, if I try to warp stabilize that, it's going to say I can't because the dimensions don't match the sequence. So that requires nesting. Now, the other thing that I can do here too is because this is 60 frames, if I change my speed duration to 40%, that's going to make it 24 frames playback, slow motion. It stabilizes the footage just a little bit. Now, if I try to put my warp stabilizer on it, same thing. We're running into dimension issues and also a speed duration issue as well. So what do we need to do? Fix by nesting. So right click, nest. Basically what it does is creates a sequence of its own for that clip. You can see this turns green, and if I double click, I enter into a sequence that's just that clip. If I go back, now I drop my warp stabilizer on it, and it's going to analyze the clip, and we'll be able to actually stabilize this 4K footage that is also slowed down. Now, let's just talk about this a little bit. What are some other reasons that you might want to use a nested sequence? Well, let's bring in another clip. Here I've got a clip that is 1920 by 1080, so we have no issues of dimension size. So let's just take this middle chunk here, something that's in focus, where he turns his head. Great. So I'm just going to take that middle chunk, and because we have no dimension problems, this clip is 1920 by 1080, the sequence is 1920 by 1080, I could put a warp stabilizer on this clip, no problem, and it'll analyze for me. However, this clip is shot at 120 frames per second, so I want to play around with it a little. I'm going to go in to my time remapping and use my pen tool, and I'm going to start it out fast, and then I'm going to have it slow down. So just make that little mark, speed it up. It's going to start quick, and then it'll slow right down. Now, if I try to put on a warp stabilizer, you can see warp stabilizer and time remapping can't be used on the same clip. So this is the same problem that you were running into with the 4K clip when the dimensions didn't match up. We couldn't use an effect like a warp stabilizer. Same thing here. So what do? Do you just have to not time remap? No, if you've been watching this video, you'll now know exactly what you got to do. You got to right click. First, get rid of the warp stabilizer effect on it. Right click, nest. We get another nested sequence. And then you can drop your warp stabilizer on, and it's going to do it for you. Now, this isn't necessarily a clip you'd want to use a warp stabilizer on because the motion's pretty smooth anyway, but that's how you do it for something when you're giving a time remap to any clip. So very important to know because a lot of people will move along with their edit, and then they'll try to toss an effect on it, like a warp stabilizer, and they'll get that error there, and it'll mess them up. And that's just because you've adjusted the speed of your clip or you've time remapped. And you can see back on this clip, it looks pretty good. Obviously, there's a little bit of motion from the warp stabilizer. That's just because we had a little bit of black bars on top and bottom because the clip is actually wider than 16 by 9. So, you would just need to scale in a little bit, probably to about 108, and then you won't see that, and we'll have a nice smooth clip. So just wanted to quickly go over that nesting. You can use it in a number of other ways. If you've got a number of clips and you want to put an effect on all of them at once, you could group them together in a nest and then apply the effect rather than applying it to a bunch of different clips. Otherwise, you can come up with various reasons for nesting, but in this video, I just wanted to make sure we went over resolution differences from your sequence and time remapping on clips. Nest them, then you can apply something like a warp stabilizer. So I hope this helps you guys out. Enjoy. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe. We'll check you back in the next one. Thanks, guys.